There's coffee. I can get you tea if you would like some tea. And we also have fresh cold water. We have plenty of water since there's no plumbing. So that's not an issue. We keep ourselves stocked with plumbing. I'm Patty Silverman. And my daughter Megan Jane is somewhere. Anyway, she's due in September. I'm really excited about that. That'll be our 5th grandchild. So anyway, my purpose for today was I wanted all of you to come together like you are. And I just wanted to talk about the incredible history that we seem to be living in the middle of, but a lot of people don't remember it anymore. And this building, to me, every day I come here reminds me of a man that was here at one point. He got up every morning, he came over, he built a place, he ran a business, he had a family. He did everything back then that we do today. He had dreams and everything, and this is still standing here. And every day I come in here, it's just a little snapshot of the life that used to be. And I'm just so interested, I think that's not the right word, but still, it'll work, in making sure that we preserve the history that brought us to our future. And with that being the case, then I spoke with Andy from the library, and he suggested doing an oral history, which he will explain to you guys what that is going to entail. But after it's all over, you guys can wander around. You can just ask questions. You can take pictures, whatever you want, okay? And just let me know if you want anything like coffee. I'll be glad to get it for you. If you want cold water, I'll get it for you, etc., etc. What I really would like you to do, too, is to make sure that you sign the book. When you first came in, there's a little book there that I would like you to sign so we can see who all was here today. The other thing is, I don't know if you want to... Oh, this is clothing. Yes, that's going to go out. Yes, so that's what that big mound is for.
It's a perfect stand right now.
Ooh, you're hot. You were like, oh, it's done. It's so hot. The stove, actually, I'll mention this before I forget about it. We put in the wood-burning stove because there is no air or heat in the building. So we put in the wood-burning stove, which after about 5 or 10 minutes, it gets really warm in here, as you can tell. But when I first came into the building, this fireplace was closed up. So they had a big piece of wood over it. You couldn't even tell it was a fireplace except for the hearth. I wanted it uncovered immediately because I'm into fireplaces. And when we got it all cleaned up, we found 6 to 8 inches of dirt. Roe, the one that scooted out of here very quickly without showing his face, he's the one that did all the work in here. And he uncovered the fireplace for me. And he found 6 to 8 inches of dirt that was in there. And it had to have come through the chimney. We're not sure how this happened, but over there on that chest and table near the window is a sample of all the stuff we found in the dirt. We found a piece of an old heel. We found silverware. We found bottle caps that still have the cork in it. We found a knife. We found all sorts of little things. Now, how they got in there, we don't know, but there they are. So, and little pieces of things that we found around here, maybe you guys can shed some light as to why every time it rains, there's glass. Because we find pieces of glass everywhere. And so I started to collect the glass, and those pieces that have something unique about them or whatever, a different color, I'm collecting it, and you'll see a sampling of that back there also. But it is my intent for Howard, I'm going to make him a wind chime. And I've got a rock tumbler, and I'm going to put the glass in the rock tumbler, and I'm going to get the edges smoothed off, and then I'm going to make him a wind chime. And it's going to be a sampling of all the glass that we found in this building. When I first rented this building, I told Howard it was my intent to preserve the historical integrity of the building. So anything that we find that is a part of the past, we keep. That being the case, after we're all done talking or whatever, We can just ask questions or wander around, and if you see something, I'd be more than happy to show you the things that I know. Also, on the counter back there are 3 ledger books. 2 ledger books are from this building. 1 ledger book is from the SB Hart. It's when it was a post office, so it's the other building up there. And there are enough people here from all of those families that could shed some lights on all of that. I think, and there's also Red Binder, which I have taken pictures this last week. I went around with my husband, and this is not his thing at all, so you have to give him credit, because he wandered around and traipsed through woods with me to take pictures of stuff. I took pictures of the old foundation of the bridge that runs over the road that used to run over Jones Road, behind Lazy 5. That line of trees, my understanding, that used to be a road, came across over Jones Road, came across Silas Creek, and came and joined what is now Bradshaw. And so that being the case, I went down there and took pictures of the foundation of the bridge, which is still there. I had also taken little pictures of little things all around here. Took pictures of the old Hart store that used to be the post office. And it's in a red binder up there, so you're more than welcome to look at all those pictures, okay? That being the case, I'm going to turn this over to Andy from the library, and he is going to get us started.
I just mentioned that when you get through here, you'd like to go down and see the old post office. The owner of the farm is here now.
Oh, cool. See?
There's one thing you missed here.
Oh, I'm sure there's lots of things I missed.
You didn't have a place for everybody to chew tobacco back there.
Yes.
They had to have a place to spit. And it's around that stove. What a fireplace.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't very nice. But
So that's not like oil or something on the floor here? This is like where they spit. Thank you for sharing.
you better leave that.
That's a photo. There's 2 chairs up here. There's 2 chairs up here. There's a chair here. There's a chair here. There's also the papas on there with the fur cover and the cushion and everything. That fits too. So please make yourselves at home and find a place to sit if you're uncomfortable standing, okay?
Okay, well, as she said, I'm Andy Poor from the Mooresville Public Library. I work for the town of Mooresville doing the local history. I collect local histories and all, which we go around and videotape people and places, events, things like that, things like this, telling stories, collecting the history of the area. Because as many as you know, that's sort of leaving us as Mooresville grows and grows and grows and grows. Yeah, no. And so anyway, when I've always known, I grew up here. My great-grandfather was R.C. Millsaps. And in fact, I'm related to Howard Miller. His wife was my grandfather, Ralph Millsaps' first cousin. My great-grandmother was Kate Campbell. So I've known a little bit of the history and all of the area growing up. Now I've even interviewed, like Mr. Hart, I've interviewed him a couple of times. And we make all this available online for people, kids, to do research. Because thanks to teachers like O.C. Stonestreet, Chip Stonestreet and all, they're pushing to study more of the original history of it. And in fact, I promised the UDC and DAR to let y'all know. Chip just wrote a new book on the Battle of Cowan's Ford, and he's actually going to speak at the DAR program, which is the second Saturday of the month. So the second Saturday of April. This is March, April, yeah, will be the DAR program. It's open to the public, so you're more than welcome to come. It's at the library. And it's going to be kind of interesting. He wrote a whole book about General Davidson and all that. So I've done my civic duty for today. But what I thought today was everybody, y'all are all, of course, families from this area, and the stories and the history and all that. So I thought we would just kind of have like a group oral history and talk about the area, this store, the community, as it grew up and as it changed over time. So, I mean, this is nothing formal, just, everybody can just tell stories, tell what you remember. If it's anything we can blackmail anybody with, we'll step over here and I'll talk to you privately, so it just sort of tells, that's what we do, is we sort of tell stories of life as it changed and as it's happened in Mooresville, because the sad thing is the rate we're going, if we continue growing within the next 20 years, a lot of it's going to be gone. Not only through the people, but through just the change. The buildings, the houses, all that sort of stuff are going to be gone. I know, I'll give you an example of the Melkers house. If anybody knows the big white house that sits on Institute Street in Mooresville, fire station is here and it sits here. It's the last of the oldest houses in downtown Mooresville. It was built in 1855. And it has not come out of the family yet, but it's getting ready to. So, we're getting ready to lose that history. So, but anyway.
Is Ms. Miller still living?
Yes, ma'am. She's still going. But neither the daughters don't. They don't. Well, they've already given up. Ruth is almost going to give up the pet store. And Evelyn already gave up the hardware. So, and Ms. Milker's living with Evelyn now. So she can't be at home. Mine's still Charlotte. Mine's clear as a bell. So I love talking to her. She knows. But anyway, so I guess we just started. Whoever wants to tell the story. I mean, we already heard about the tobacco, which I feel like I need to go home and have a bath now. Yeah, exactly. But start with. I guess this was D.E. Overcatch, I believe. Was this Mr. Who built this? And so, I mean, who wants to tell? Who wants to? I know Mr. Hart's got good stories.
Well, I might have a story too.
You don't have to
I
stand.
can get up. Well, I'm 98 years old, and I'm probably the oldest one I've had. My father and I used to patronize the store. We came by, we'd buy a can of sardines, and they'd furnish give you the crackers to go with it. And that was a real treat. And, the merchandise, Mr. Dan O'Cash had a general merchandise store. He had, of course, he wouldn't have but one pair of shoes. If they didn't fit you, you were out of luck. And he had small inventory, but he had most of everything. And he dealt with the farmers around here. They'd bring in their chickens and their eggs and sell them here, and he would give them credit for it, and they could get exchanging for merchandise that he had on hand. And the reason I was so familiar with it, because my father, we had a farm down here at Seal Creek, and we worked on all day and stop by here in the evening for a little snack and get us something to drink. And that was a real treat because it was not available anywhere else. I don't know of any other. Do you have any questions to ask me? I might be able to tell you.
Where did you live? Where did you live when you grew up here?
Pardon?
Where did you live when you grew up here?
I lived in Morris at the old home place up here at the junction of 152.
801?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The one that's got all that junk out in the yard, that was my home.
All right.
If you call it junk. And, well, let's see. So we had a farm here, and my father says we always had to come to Rowan County to get something to feed the cattle and the mules, and which we did. And but is any other questions you have?
I have one, Mr. Hart. Down on Bradshaw, used to go around that sharp curve, and then there's those woods there. There was a little log cabin back in there, and that was Hart property.
That's my brother Don on that.
Okay.
I think the cabin is gone.
Yes, the cabin is gone.
He gave it to somebody.
Yes.
Gave it to the museum in Statesville, but they, I don't know what they ever did with it.
I talked with the girl that lives there yesterday, and she said when they moved there, when they bought that, they had, the fellow wanted it, but said he only took just part of it because it was so far gone. And that there was still a shed there, and he removed, tore it down, and there was a well there, and they had it fixed so it would, I guess, filled up so it would never be any problem.
Well, Donald gave me a little log crib that I moved up there behind my house in Mooresville. And it was a log building. We disassembled it and reconstructed it. But we had Roman numerals cut on the corners, and each one of those logs had to go back in the same position it came from.
Really?
So that was easy to do.
So did you ever, where did you go to school? Where did you go to school?
I don't hear well.
Where was the school? Where did you go to school?
The school was Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge?
It was about half a mile beyond the junction up there on the left. It was a 3-room schoolhouse.
Really? So what ages did it cover? What grades?
What?
What grades did it cover?
They went up through the 7th grade.
So there was no such thing as a high school?
3-room.
I'm going to go closer.
Yeah.
That's nice questions. So it only went up to 7th grade, and then after 7th grade you officially graduated?
Pardon me?
It only went up to 7th grade, and after that you officially graduated, or did they have high school?
You go to high school.
Where was that?
You go to, well, my mother took part of them, and part of them went to Morrisville. I went to Morrisville.
Okay, so the high school in Mooresville is
I
the original
graduated in
high school?
1930
Did you
in
really?
Morrisville. I'm the last survivor in my class at 50.
What did you do for a living?
I was in the cotton business,
Really?
merchandising cotton to the textile mills. The textile mills left me. They went where the cheap labor was.
Yeah, we're all familiar with China. So what did you do after that?
After that,
Yeah.
well, before that, I was in the service for quite a while.
Were you really? What branch?
I was in a tank.
Tankers?
Army maybe?
I commanded a tank battalion. Battalion is 5 companies, about 800 men. And I was in command of it. Went into,
He guarded his tank guarded.
but after Berlin fell, my unit was selected as occupation forces in Berlin. And told my S2 spoke Russian fluently, and I says, you gonna and I gonna be in that Berlin the day after it falls. And I was going, and I come there is a section, a block, 3-story modern brick building, and they had all the convenience of life. And my brothers had been living on tanks, 5 men to a tank, and I says, I'm gonna live in luxury now. So we occupied those.
Very cool. So I hear that you were the very first one to enter Hitler's bunker?
That's right. And I also went in, they had a ring of guards around the Miss Chancellery. So there was a couple of generals, Russian generals there. And I told Ruskovich, asked him if we could go in and see, we were going to go in Hitler's office. And they says, we do too. And they told the guards to step aside. So I walked right into Hitler's office. And got a few mementos out of the desk drawers.
Really? Like what?
I got his signature on a document. Some other things.
That's wonderful.
That's my experience in the military. Now I'm
Hey, that's
retired
pretty
as a lieutenant colonel, and I still hold that rank.
You were under Pat? Is that what you're... I hear this little voice over here. So you were under Patton?
I reported to Patton when I went on active duty.
Wow.
Fort Benning, Georgia.
Not really something. So, anybody else got questions? Because
The old log building, the old log building you were talking about, who built it, who lived in it?
Which one, Reed? We live there?
on Bradshaw Road.
On Bradshaw, the one she was talking about.
On Bradshaw Road, the one I was talking about.
Oh, we didn't live there. It was a tenant house there. The tenant, the working farm lived in there.
Lived in the
I
log
never
house.
did live.
Did you know who they were? Did you know who the tenants were that lived in that house? Did you know their
They were
names?
black people.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
That's all. Got any more questions?
Well, I'm curious as to, like, this area has changed so much, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I know this is a real broad question, but how have things changed around here now? There's like 150 going down here now, but there wasn't 150 when you lived around here, or there was?
It wasn't numbered then. They put numbers on them later.
Was it asphalt or was it dirt road?
It was a Bradshaw Road going up through, had to cross the creek.
And it was Wilson Mills? It used to be Wilson Mills Road? Do you know that? Okay. I had talked with a lady, Bever? Suzanne Bever. And she lives up in that, she's got goats. And she lived up in that area, and she said that Bradshaw used to be called Wilson Mills. And at the very end, it used to go to the right.
Can I bring something up?
Right,
When you go
yes.
across Bradshaw Road, before you get to Mill Bridge Road, you cross the creek.
I wasn't familiar with that.
Wilson's Mill was directly above the creek. Some of the old stones still there.
Did you hear that?
He can't hear it.
Okay. If you would tell it, and I'll say it loud enough. Okay, so.
Where, if you go all the way through Bradshaw Road, you cross a creek. And where you cross it,
Before you get to Bradshaw
no,
Road.
before you get to Mill Bridge Road, it's on the other end of Bradshaw. but you cross a creek and directly above the bridge is where Wilson's Mill was. There's still old stone there from the mill.
You guys ever fly down there?
But it's almost over to Mill Bridge Road. It's within a mile of Mill Bridge Road.
Well, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, that was probably a little farther out from where you went.
Probably.
I have no idea when the mill operates. I just know.
That's cool, that's interesting.
And my grandfather, Bingham Hart, lived right down the next road, about a mile down on the left. The Wendy bit lives there now, and the Samuel Bingham Hart, and that's where he had the post office, and he had two barns there, a cow barn and a horse barn. The fellow that rode the Pony Express always kept an extra horse there, and he changed horses every day. He'd come up and deliver his mate, and get a new horse and ride back to Salisbury. She did the same thing on the other end. And my grandfather had a store there in the post office, and there was a ice house out across the road. I've been in it. Used to go down the steps to get in it. I had stored apples and so forth in there.
Really?
But they got the ice off of a little lake down next to Sills Creek. They turned the water on when they had a little more ice. And they'd build it up. And they'd get a couple of inches thick. And they'd saw it off in blocks and haul it up and put it in that ice house and put a layer of sawdust and a layer of ice. And it held for a good while.
So he sold that to people. What was the main source of income here? Was it farming? Was it the cottons? Was it?
Farming. Cotton was king. They used to call it king cotton because that's where they got the cash. And there was always a market for cotton. We bought cotton all the year. And they paid cash for, and something they could convert into cash.
Now, along that line of the cotton, did they have buildings around here that were specifically for the manufacturing of cotton and, the processing and stuff? Or did you take it?
Mooresville.
Okay.
And we had a cotton warehouse there.
Did you ever take it into Concord, Kannapolis, where they had the big cotton mills there, or into Cornelius, where they had the cotton mills there?
Oh yeah, I sold cotton to both men.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I think it's something very important here that Mr. Freeze has, is his schoolhouse stood right up here.
Oh, hey!
I can't hear you.
He has a picture of it.
It was a centenary school.
Sitting there,
Picture here was taken in 1914.
Come up there and talk to him.
What's that?
Here, you want to come up here and sit in
It's
this
the
chair?
class. It's the class of centenary school.
He's coming up here to talk to you.
It's the class of centenary school in 1914.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of my things on the Harts.
Some of my, I'm Jim Freeze. I live over here on Landon Road. And,
Well,
and
my grandfather was great for education.
yeah.
And he contributed land to the school here. They called it Harts for a while.
Yeah.
And
My mother, I think they used to live down here in a house that the Harts owned.
well, my grandfather had two daughters, and he sent them both to college, and they graduated, which was unheard of back then.
Oh yeah.
Well, the girls didn't go to college much, but they had good jobs with the banks, and they had an education. College, you could be
I went to this school a couple of years when I was small, and then they done away with it. But
What's the name of the school?
Centenary School,
It's in there, yeah.
yeah, it was right up
They
here.
called it Harts one time, and then they
Yeah.
called it Centenary.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all the same.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was really, it says here that it's Centenary School, but I don't know whether it was named that at that time or not. But it was Centenary when I went there.
Good.
Could I see you in that picture? Could I see you?
Aunt Patty and Uncle George and Uncle Everett. So they were just, I couldn't hardly be in there.
See that? Because you was in my class.
That's all I can tell you.
That's all that it
Got
used
some
to
more
be
questions.
Silk Creek?
Right. I told you. You did good. Fields Creek. Wonder how I got named Bradshaw Road. Well, they were renamed
Centenary
it,
School.
and they named it Howard Road. And Bradshaw evidently didn't like it, and so they had to change the Bradshaw. And it wasn't big. The Admiral Road was called the church after the Admiral.
And then also, but see, Car Road and then it went to Bradshaw Road?
Now, I'm talking about the one she lives on, it comes into.
The story.
And, yeah, so that's the night they call it.
Yeah, where I live,
Yeah, and Admirals didn't know anything.
they didn't.
They never
Mr. J. Will read it.
read it all the time. I don't know why, but Admirals did own stuff.
You're talking about the old road.
The house is
Yeah.
up there.
When it crossed back over 150, it didn't follow Bradshaw Road. That brick garage down there. The old road ran underneath where that garage is, and there's another bridge across, just over past that garage, it's still there where the road crossed the branch down the creek.
And she
And then it
married
angled back
Red.
across 150, you can still see the trigger line in the cutout place if you look at
They
the
live
left.
here in
It
their
goes up across the John Neely Road. You can see the tree line over the top of the hill, and came back into 150.
Randy was a. Okay, so see, all these people need to know Randy Hall. What's your name?
Dan Caldwell,
Dan, this is Dan Caldwell, everybody knows him, I guess. But he just finished saying something that is incredibly interesting that I thought maybe you guys would like to hear. Okay.
the original road through here, it angled off in front of the Lazy Five, across Jones Road, across the creek, it came back across 150. There's a garage, brick garage, it used to be Jimmy Lee Tarrant's garage there. The road ran underneath where that building, brick building, garage building is, and it crossed the branch behind it, and there's still, the concrete abutments are still in place where it crossed the branch, and it came back across 150 and went up toward, up the hill farther to the left, and it crossed McNeely Road, and then came back into 150 at the top of the hill in front of Sloop's Dairy. I don't know when it ceased to be used and when the new road was put through. It was before my time.
I know that Bill's grandmother told that when they did put the new road in, that there was a big oak tree right there in their front yard, just across from where McLaughlin's farmhouse store is now. And that he was not going to have that thing moved. So they had to kind of curve that road around just ever so slightly, the 150 when they put the new.
The story goes, if you don't mind me interrupting, that
You see Wendy's?
Grandpa Silas, when they were building the new road, Grandpa Silas, they were wanting to cut down this great big oak that she's talking about. So, in protest, he plopped himself in a chair, and he was probably, you know, in the pictures, I never knew him, but he looks to be shorter than me, and about 6 times my size. And anyway, he plopped himself in a chair there at that oak tree and refused to move until they curved it around enough. And if you come up the road, and they did, they curved it around enough to not lose the oak tree. If you pay attention and you're coming up the road this way, especially if there's a transfer truck topping that little knoll down there, you will see that there is just enough curve in that road. You think it's straight, but it's not, to miss the tree. Anyway, the tree's gone.
Another thing somebody told me several years ago, the boy that's your grandson or great-grandson of Glenn Brown, where the old Brown house was on Jones Road, you notice the house doesn't face the road, it faces sideways. He told me that at one time the road came in front of that house down through the woods. He said you could still, if you went down there, you could still see evidence of it. I didn't go down to look.
Yeah.
I don't know where the road went.
What is this again? What is this again? I'm sorry.
If you familiar with Jones Road,
Not a bit.
you know where the Christmas trees are on
No. But
If you
I'll be familiar with them now.
turn on Jones,
Turn left on Jones? Okay.
left field, and I believe it's the second house on the left. It's a big two-story farmhouse, but it doesn't face the road, it faces this way instead of the road. But one of the descendants of the people that lived there told me that the original road, or I don't know if it was this road or another road, went in front of that house and went on down. I don't have any idea where it went.
It's my understanding from somebody, because I've talked to so many people, but it's my understanding that the original road, where it started, it went down this line of trees, so it came from the overcash property, down past where the old Harts store was, the post office. It came down around that, and followed the line of trees. It went down where Lazy Five is,
Well, this road,
so that would make sense
no,
then.
this was not the same road. This road is farther.
Oh,
It's probably a
really?
half a mile left.
So there was another road.
There was another road sometime.
Very interesting.
I didn't realize it until I was here. I'm almost 70 years old. I didn't know anything
Now
about
tell us about what you have up there.
I'm Danny Caldwell, and my father, J.B. Caldwell, operated the grocery store about 2.5 miles east of here. It was opened sometime in the early 1900s. I don't know who owned it at that time. I do know I've got some paper records that show that it was Carr Brothers store around 1924. And my grandfather opened the store. He purchased it and opened the store on January the 1st, 1939. And the store was operated until 1976. And the store was similar to this, it was a little bit larger. And getting into the tobacco thing, it had a pot-bellied stove that sat right around this point in the store, which was about this high and about this big around. It had 2 square boxes about this big on each side of the stove filled with sand, and that's where you spit your tobacco juice and duck your cigarette.
Tell him that. Maybe that's why there's a hole there. See, if you look, the wood floor changes over there, and that's more recent wood put in there.
Yeah.
And we can't figure out what was in there. Maybe Howard knows.
Yeah.
But maybe that's where
but
the
the store-
spit box was.
I still own the building down there and try to keep it from falling in. If anybody wanted to go inside and look at it, I'd be willing to open it up.
I would.
But it did not have a fireplace in it. It had a chimney that suspended from the chimney's still up there. And I've got metal pipes under it supporting it to keep it from falling through. But the store up there was built in 3 sections. The main part, which would be similar to what we're standing in now, was originally built. Then they built another room on the back. And it was used, they sold clothing items back there, shoes, clothes. And then a shed similar to the ones on the side here were built all the way up the other side. In the front of the shed on the upper side was like it was here, there was a barber shop in there. Mr. John K. Graham cut hair in there, and Mr. Clyde Sherrill cut hair in there. This,
Are they still alive?
no.
Oh.
But in late 40s, my grandfather decided to put in meat. He took the petition down between the back part and put in plumbing so he'd have water in meat. Sold meat and we raised hogs.
You ever see Chris
Killed
Lyon?
hogs and made sausage and liver mush and sold them in the store.
Really?
Yeah.
And today, you can go to Bill's and buy your meat and your sausage and your liver mush and bacon, and it's just like it was at Danny's dad's store. And the sausage tastes the same.
Only we don't have a potbelly study.
But I can remember when Bill, his father butchered beef, and that's where we got our beef sold in the store down there. And Bill would be the delivery man, he'd bring it.
I still am the delivery man. But I ain't carrying any more beef.
Where's that store that provides the sausage and all now? Where is that store that does that?
Right down here,
Oh,
where they slide,
McLaughlin's?
yes.
Yeah, gosh, you need to go there.
Yeah, I know all about that already. I thought it was somewhere
Well,
else.
thank you.
Also on the same property, there was a building that's still standing beside the store. I've got some pictures of pass around later. It was an automobile repair shop that I understand was built, it was a community project built to work on automobiles when they came into existence.
Yeah.
You know, I've been told that a Bill Baysinger operated it. And just past the, where the auto shop was, there's a metal building that used to be the West Rowan Harts Community. And there was a blacksmith shop there, Mr. Charlie Baysinger. He'd operated in my lifetime. I remember shoeing horses and had a forge in it. And had around horseshoes and metal parts and needed. But it's no longer there, it's sold down. And across the road was Collier Gin Company, cotton gin, the sawmill, and later they processed lumber, they dressed lumber there. And I can remember in the late 40s when all that was powered by steam.
Really?
I've got some old pictures at home that still got the smokestack for the steam before we did here. The original cotton gin's been torn down and they built a new one, and the new one's been converted into machine.
Now, see, Andy, from the library, he and I were going around here today looking at things, and if you want, you can go in both these side rooms after we're done. But you'll notice on some of the wood, there's scoring on it. And you can tell right where they cut out the wood for the beams and everything. But Andy said that he's pretty sure, Andy, speak up. Oh, well, are you talking into that? Okay, no. Because he said it's the saws that were run by steam or water. Okay. You're not going to help me out here?
Well, it'll pick me up and override everybody.
Okay. So anyway, it's really cool back there because he says every time there was a rotation, it would cause this little mark. And so it actually looks like you've got wood piled on top of each other, but it's not. It's where every time the saw made a rotation, it would make this little cut. And it was either water powered or steam powered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was really cool too. So, you know, at the beginning, probably the sawmill, I don't know whether they did this themselves or whether they had this lumber milled possibly down there where you're talking about.
While I'm still up, I'll go ahead and tell what I know about the rest of the community down there. About a half a mile or less than a mile past the store, there was a post office there. And the community's name was Miranda. That was the mailing address, Miranda. And there was also a school there. Miranda School.
And Danny, Mr. Carl Graham, whenever I was delivering Meals on Wheels, he talked about going to that school, he and his brother and sisters, and they would walk from where they lived over on, just off of Back Creek Church, that loop road, that Grand Loop Road. they would cross several fences and to get there, and they always carried their guitars with them because he and his brother I guess they like to sing and pick. Anyway, they would finally get to the school. I don't know what time it was. I don't know if they were in a certain time. They'd get to school, but then that discontinued, and they had to go to Mount Olive when they got to high school.
Well, I've got my grandmother's diploma, and she was born in 1899, where she finished school at Miranda School.
My husband went to Miranda and he started there.
Well, he said when they got to Mount Olive, he says, you know what, I didn't know we didn't know a lot.
The Miranda post office was in the house that Ron lives in, that's right.
Oh, is that right?
I want to ask about what they used to call the colored school that was down there, kind of where Jim Lee's garage was. Do you know just the exact location?
I hadn't heard that.
You didn't know there was?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I got a map that shows church school.
Well, Mr. Hart, Donald Hart brought in a ledger book, and in there shows a lot of numbers for the school district at the time, and it's broken down for the school board and stuff, and it's broken down, colored, white. So it's keep those safe, because right now we'd be having problems with racism, but I thought that was very interesting too. So, but look at that. You know about colored school.
That's all I know.
Any other questions?
You all were talking about the colored school. There's a man down my road, his name's Bill White, you might know him. And he's like 75 years old, I believe.
80, I think.
Oh, is he 80 now? He might be able to tell whoever asked that question about the colored school. He might be able to know that, because I believe he grew up and worked with the cotton here in this area, for Miss Wanda. And probably Mr. Hart knows him.
The gentleman who used to have the barber shop back here,
Yes,
is that Bill White?
it was Shelley Blackbrother who was
Okay.
stepson of my granddad.
I don't know, for some reason I've heard when the barber shop back there, the gentleman that had it still lived down the road here. But that must have been obviously something else.
You cut my hair, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know that I knew that.
Can I ask, before we start splitting up, can I ask for us to just kind of give an idea who y'all are? Because you guys are from a tight community here, you probably know who everybody is, but I don't, and I think it'd be good for the recording. So we can start with you, Howard.
Okay, I'm Howard Miller, and my granddaddy built this, had this store built. We think around 1884, 85, in that period. And he had four children. It was my mother, Della, and Vastine Overbeck was lived down the road. And then Uncle Henry lived over here, and Uncle Bill lived over at the house here. And my grandmother died at a young age, and my grandfather married again, and he married Miss Artie Blackbrother, who had four children. And it was Smoot and Gladys and Shelley, and I don't believe the fourth one was, but there were four. And so that was 8 children. Then together, they had 4 more children. So there was 12 children involved. They had stepbrothers and sisters, one sister, and then Marvin, Kenneth, and Herbert, and Ray. So there were 12 children involved. In fact, Uncle Henry and one of the Blackwood, Shelley Blackwood, built a little log house to live in down this way. And they lived
I Googled it's from the Statesville Showcase, and I Googled it, and they went out in the 1940s. So, I've had fun Googling stuff.
Actually, it came from Bill Overcash, who was my granddaddy's son's his youngest son. And he had a store up on the Statesville Road. And when I bought this store from them, that family, I bought that too. We had to pay for that too. But it's old, I don't know how old.
Okay, so you are from McLaughlin's.
Yes, I'm Bill McLaughlin. This is my wife Elaine. We live down off on London Road. We run McLaughlin's Farmhouse Country Store and McLaughlin's Sausage Company down here on the right. Most of you know that. What I call our home place, and I don't know what you want here, just my name. That's
You
all.
just do what you want.
I won't tell you, but I do have a couple of things I'd like to tell you that we are, my children, my son is, from what we can tell, is at least 6th generation living here. Our grandfather, what would it be, our great-great-grandfather Samuel, and I don't know much, I don't know a thing about Samuel. I'm not like Danny Caldwell. All I can tell you is his name was Samuel. And at some point in time, there was, it goes back to the Civil War, there was some 200 acres purchased by Samuel, we think, back in this area. And he, of course, naturally paid very little for it at that time, in our opinion. But over the years, I guess it's been sold off in one way, fashion, or another. But our great-grandfather, his son, was Silas, who was, my understanding, was very close friends with Mr. Overcash here, correct?
That's correct.
Now, Howard, if you read the article on the store in the Salisbury Post, Howard had told a very interesting story, and I've heard this story several times, and if you don't know it, I'd like to just briefly tell it to you. They were very, very, very close friends, and every time they voted, on every vote, they would ride together to the polling, wherever the polling place was. One was a Republican, one was a Democrat, and that's the only way they ever voted. Now, you know what happened there. They just canceled out one another's votes. But I thought that was a very humorous story and very interesting story. There's another story about Grandpa Silas, and I've already told you how large he was, that he had a bet with a gentleman, Mr. Overcash, I believe, as to who won the election. The one who won would be ridden in a wheelbarrow down the main street of Mooresville. And is that right? Have you ever heard this? Now, I've heard this story. You know how you hear stories. Well, Mr. Overcash lost. And I can't imagine how he got my grandfather down to Main Street in Mooresville in a wheelbarrow, but he did it, according to the story I've heard. But anyway, we go back that far. My grandfather's name was Bruce, whose picture is in this Centenary School picture somewhere. I haven't found it. Did you find it? His sons were Harold and Spencer. Harold is my father. He was William Harold. I'm William Harold Jr. We have a third. We have a fourth in our family. I don't. If you have any questions about I do have a question for someone that I've always wondered about. The old barn down here, which we are getting ready to mend a little bit from all the wind. The old barn down here, you were talking about the road. Well, you know the point in a barn where they used to run the whatever down to pick up the hay, you know?
Hay fork.
The hay fork, thank you. Well, every barn I have ever seen the point was toward the road. Have you ever noticed that? Always toward the road. If you'll notice this barn, the point in it is toward that way. And it was on what we call the old Miller place. And if somebody could tell me why that point is that way, if there was a road of some fashion that ran up behind that barn, I would really appreciate it, because I've never had anybody who could tell me. So anyway, that's us.
that Miller farm was my other grandfather's farm.
Mhm.
And that's how my daddy got to this community. Before they lived here, they lived over near Amity Hill and went to Bethesda Presbyterian Church. And he met my mother, who was the only daughter that my grandpa had. And so they got together and then they built a house across the road here. But Grandpa Miller bought, the way I understand it, he bought about 200 acres, just like the McLaughlin family did. And he paid for it with gold. He had gold coins. And I think he paid $2,000 for about 200 acres. So, but that was probably going.
That was a lot of money during the Civil War.
Especially with gold, you know.
Now, I heard that the property lines that used to go all the way up, this used to be a big, huge piece of property, it used to go all the way to Davidson. Was that the Miller property, the Overcash, or do you know whose property it was? It was just a big, huge chunk of land in it.
What do you think about that?
I've got people come in here with different stories, and I think the one guy that told me that isn't here today, so.
But there is a line that runs approximately from Cynthia Church down on this side of the airport. And when you're flying, you can look down and you can see how that line ran all the way down to 152. So it was a early English line that they drew down through there.
Well, I know that there's a lot of stories with building the property that you guys are on and everything, but for this particular building, there's some of the things that I have seen which is very interesting. First of all, the standard way to build building is to have the main room like this and then have rooms on either side. Was that the way they did it? Because I think, Danny, you were saying that too, that the building
They started out small, it was needed additional space, they added to the sides or the rear. Because I walked in this room a while ago and I noticed it looked like the original rafters came down and see where it was joined in with the shed part over there.
I was telling Mr. Harry there a while ago, it's the first time I'd ever been in this building. It looked to me like the same architect who built this as he built the post office down there where I live.
Exactly. Because when I walked into your house, when I went to your home, same wall boards.
Well, the store
exactly
I have now is basically the same design. It was later, I can tell by looking at the lumber, that this store was built before the one that I've got now.
Well, it's an absolutely wonderful building. If you look, because everywhere you go in this building, you see signs of the life that was. It tells a story. And unfortunately, the people that can tell those stories, a lot of them are gone. But that drawer you see over there, that was Mr. Overcash's cash drawer. And if you open it up, it's a real heavy, thick wood, and it's got 3 slots in it, and that's where he kept his money. There used to be, and jump right in if I'm wrong, Alice, there used to be a long counter right here, and they used to keep all their stuff on those shelves, and then the inventory was kept back here in this room, which you guys are welcome to go through too. And there's floor to ceiling shelves back there. There's still this is the horseshoe. There's a matching horseshoe to the house next door, because the house next door was where Mr. Overcash lived, and Howard's mother was born there. And there's no plumbing in this building, because if they needed it, they go next door. But everywhere you look, there's just signs. I want to say, well, what happened here, what happened here, what happened here? Like, we still want to know why there's different wood in this section here in the middle of the floor. What was there? Do you know what was there?
I don't.
Okay, see, and it's just been filled in, And I don't know if you'll notice, but I'll point out 3 different sections. They used to, this is what I've been told, they used to seal up holes with soup cans, and they would flatten out the soup cans and nail them to seal the holes. And when we first came in here, there was a rug right here. When we took it up, underneath was one of the floorboards had a big, huge hole in it where critters could come in. And there was an old soup can that was nailed down to cover that hole. And just things like that. I mean, it still has the old wiring, the places where the wiring was. You can look at the wood out here. There's still bark on the wood, on the rafters. There's just, everywhere you look, you can see how things were made and put together. And this was somebody's handiwork. This building was somebody's handiwork. So there's just an awful lot of little things. If you look at the floors, when we came in here, the floors had about 100 years worth of grime on them. So Roe Justice, who's scooted out of here so you guys couldn't meet him, he was over here all the time, and he's the one that did most of the work to fix this place up. And he got down on his hands and knees with an electric sander, and he sanded this whole floor. And we have pictures of him covered, I mean just covered in black soot. And but we didn't want to sand it to the point of losing its integrity. So if you look around, you'll see where there's where it's uneven, where there's still the square nails. You can see the knots. You can see where it's really worn, where people might have been versus other places. It's just wonderful. In the hearth of the fireplace, which by the way, I think I told you already, it was covered when I came in. We uncovered it, and in the hearth are baby footprints. So somebody put little footprints in there when they were building it. And there's also the initials of DEO. And so that was pretty cool. I don't know how long ago they stopped using the fireplace. We used the chimney, obviously, but not the fireplace. But it was, eventually it became potbelly stoves, and those potbelly stoves are in the back of it. So there's just an awful lot of things, and I would love to hear more, but I don't know how to stimulate you guys to tell more.
Talking about the floors, when I was still, the store was still operating, my dad ran, and grandfather, about 2 or 3 times a year on Saturday night when they closed the store that weren't open on Sunday, he'd go out and he'd save some used motor oil that somebody drained out of the car, put it in a big pan, and it had an old mop, and he would mop the floor in the store with oil, and that would keep dust down, and overnight, and the time he was back up on Monday morning, most of it had already soaked in.
Now I heard that was to keep, well, that's the first I've heard about the dust, which makes sense, but I've also heard that it was to cut down on termites, deter termites, and also just to preserve the wood. So I don't know about that, but that's what I've heard.
But the floor down there's never been refinished and cleaned up, so if you get down on your knees, you're going to have greasy spots on it.
Well, you still do on this, although it's a lot better, because my daughter and I have actually gotten down on our hands and knees with buckets of soapy water and cleaned this. And we thought that at one point we'd do a section at a time. That hasn't happened. So, but a lot of the areas have been cleaned by doing that. But if you get down on your hands and knees now, you must have to go do
When I look back, when my father closed the store up in '76, he had an auction. Bill McLaughlin's dad was auctioneer. And all those old store fixtures, they're gone. They went at the auction. I got just a few things left. All the old glass show counters.
Case like this, it was two, what was it?
It was two.
It was built like our, in fact, we kind of designed our checkout counter like I remember down there.
We had
on each side of cases like that.
One for medicinal products and one for candy.
Really? It's very interesting when you go through these ledgers, what they sold. It's very, very interesting what things they sold at the time.
I've got an old ledger that came through the family, not from the store, it came from Alexandriana, which is down where North Mecklenburg High School is. That's where my family originally came from. I got no idea who ran the store, but I got entries in there from 1884. Just got the prices and written in pen.
It's interesting you say that because about Alexandriana, because that's where my daughters and I lived when we first moved here 20 years ago, and my daughters went to North Meck. But it's interesting, you reminded me of something that was said by a gentleman that I worked with at Presbyterian Hospital. He had a courier service, and I would ask him, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, we're going out of town. Really? Where are you going? Oh, we're going up to Lake Norman. Cornelius. And I went, we're going out of town? Well, lived in Charlotte, but at that time, the suburbs, they weren't suburbs, they were going out of town to the lake. And so, it reminded me of that when you were talking about how you used to live down by Alexandria.
I've always lived in this area. That's where my grandfather came from. It was called Caldwell Station. I think there's still a sign there on 115. But I know his father, my great-grandfather, didn't operate the store because I found a page in there where he bought stuff in the same store.
And that store's still there? Caldwell Station?
I have no idea where. I don't know if this is the same store.
Oh, okay. It's a cool store. It's really, really nice.
I need to go down there and take my ledger and let somebody look at it and maybe tell me some more things about it I don't know.
Yeah, it's really, really neat.
I wanted to ask, I probably missed it, but what year was the store built? I missed that.
We think it was around, according to a couple of my uncle said it was in the mid-1880s.
1880s? Okay. And while I'm asking, and I know, Mr. Miller, you're close by, I live in the house that is, and that doesn't have anything to do with the store, but that's my interest being here, plus the community. But my house is at the end of the driveway that runs parallel to Oak Breeze Drive now. That used to be Overcash Farm, I believe, from bits of information I've gotten.
Yeah.
So I was hoping you could tell me who built that house, if you know which house I'm talking about.
It's the first house right down here, isn't it?
Right at the end of the driveway.
That's where Mr. Emery Overcash lived. He was the one of the sons of Grandpa Dan Overcash. And he raised two children, Catherine and Amy Jimmer.
Did he build the house himself?
I don't know that.
Oh, okay. Do you know what year it was?
No.
Okay.
He was born around 1898. And so it would have been built probably when he was around 20 years old.
Yeah.
And that would have been in the early 1900s.
Yeah. Wow.
But there was a builder here in this community, Mr. Tom Goodnight, built a lot of the buildings around here at that time. He may have built that house because he did build the barn over here at the Miller Farm where I grew up.
All right. Thank you.
That was built around 1918, I believe. There's a little cement thing down there that's got that date in it. So. And he also built a hangar up at the airport, Mr. Tom Goodnight.
Tax records indicate this house was from 1959, but I know it was way back farther than that. Yeah. Thank you.
And he had a grinder. He was to make cornmeal. He kept it in this room over here. Now, how he powered it, I don't know. It had a big wheel you could hook a tractor to, and maybe, of course, twist it on next to the door or something, but he did make cornmeal to sell. And that cornmeal is still mine, but I loaned it to Jimmy Freeze, because the Jimmy that was here is the father of Jimmy Freeze, who's the blacksmith, and he goes to all the fairs, and I think he uses that cornmeal grinder. But it came with the store, along with a big kerosene container, which is made out of tin and covered with wood. It's over on this side, and it's still got the pump on it. And people used to buy
like a gallon of kerosene. He kept the fire started. But he kept kerosene in that container.
And that container's over in this room, but you can see it when you want to. There's also the cash register and an old scale, as well as, I think that's it, and the kerosene thing. And this, I was going to say about the display case here, it's absolutely beautiful. And we had an accident with it last year. One of the pieces of wood that keeps it up in the middle here, it had some little nails in it that got rusted, and the piece broke, and this piece of glass fell, and it smashed in two. I kept it. I can't throw it out. So, but it's real thick. So if you look at this counter, the glass is all still warbled because it's the original glass, except for this piece right here, and this we had to replace. But this used to be up here, and that's where they laid meat and produce and stuff for sale. So we dropped it because we wanted to. Anyway, I was trying to think. It's all like beautiful, beautiful molding and stuff. But over the years, it's gotten so caked with stuff and varnish and everything like that. We haven't been able to clean it off as much as we wanted to. But you'll notice all of the different woodwork and stuff. It's an absolutely gorgeous piece. I love it. We've been able to get some of the grime off the top here so that you can see what the wood looks like. I was trying to think some of the other things that are here. Oh. Standard.
Oh, yeah, standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Used to be a gas pump out here. It was one of those old gas pumps you pumped up like this. And it would go up to either 10 or 12 gallons. And we could drive up there and buy a gallon of gas. Gas was like 10 cents a gallon when I was a kid. But I do remember that pump. And it had a big globe on the top of it. It said Standard Oil. Standard, it just said Standard. It just Standard Oil. And we have those globes. I still have those globes. And the container that holds it. And I've got a modern old pump out of the junkyard. And I do plan to redo it. I don't know if I'll ever put it up here because it might invite people throwing rocks and things. So, but I'll put it up someplace. But it's in the works.
Have to have Standard Oil, was about the only oil company operating, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah. Standard Oil.
Well, we found little cranks. We found the cranks for the car. But you knew exactly what car it was for, too.
Yeah, that was Oakland.
Oakland,
Oakland became my later on. He bought that Oakland, I think, like 1918 or 19 somewhere like that. And it only lasted about 4,000 miles. It didn't go anywhere further. So they just pushed it down in the pasture there, and it sat there for a long time. And I wanted to save part of it, so I saved the gas tank. It's made out of copper. And I put it in the hanger up there to save it, but I didn't put it in the clothes part. And somebody saw that copper tank, and it went away. But I did have to get, but we still have one of the wheels and one of the tires hanging up in this one here on that Oakland automobile.
well, the building that was the post office, the Hart building, is where, tell me your names again.
Wendy and Karen, Linda.
And I have this thing about you tell me your names first, and then I don't want to tell you, then I didn't remember it. It's so rude. Anyway, they live down in the property that's the old Hart post office, and so we were able to go in there one day, and they were very gracious to show me the house as well as the building that was the post office, and it used to have a floor that somebody came in and stole the wood from the floor. And so now the floor was the original floor like this. And somebody came in and took the wood. And it looked like they started to take the wood from the walls, the ceiling.
The ceiling that way, it's built just like this, and they started tearing them lattice strips down. They took down one or two of them and I replaced them.
I've got pictures in this binder here too, if you're interested, but I also took pictures of the walls, because the walls that I'm showing you is where the old post boxes used to be. So they're still there though, that wood, the walls are still the original walls. Cedar. It's a beautiful place. Out front, you'll notice in some of my pictures, out front, the beams, the posts, the pillars for the porch are just old trees. And you can see all the little places where the limbs used to be and everything. So they used everything. There's something else that I was going to say about that building. I forget now.
On one side, on the right, where he built another room, they used to tie their horses there, didn't they, when they come in?
No. Sam told me that they used to put a spare stagecoach under that shed. And they used the barn for stable horses, and they changed out the thing when the stagecoach went by.
For the Pony Express.
He said stagecoach.
Yeah, didn't Harold Hart just say that they used to have the Pony Express would come through that and they would keep an extra horse in there? But what about, you'll see pictures in this too of a big piece of granite that looks like it's being used for flowers right now. But tell us a story about that.
Sam told me that one of his grandfathers, I don't know if it was his grandfather, great-grandfather, or whatever, went all the way to Albemarle with a team of horses in a wagon. And some of their kinfolk or somebody they knew over there had the stone quarry in Albemarle to cut that out for him. And he used it as a refrigerator in his basement to keep water in, to keep his milk and butter cool.
Excuse me.
And said they went over there with a horse and wagon and pried it up out there with tripods. It took them all day to get it up out of the basement. That was after they got electricity and he didn't need it. So they burnt the axles out of the wagon before they got here with it. It was so heavy. He didn't elaborate on how they fixed the wagon or if they got another one. He did say they burnt the axles out of the wagon.
Then he took it from there to his lake house, and then when they got older, you know, went to retirement home, they wanted to move it back on our place. They thought it belonged there. And he insisted I put flowers in it. We didn't want to do that.
Get yourself some horses to use it.
I thought of something else I'd like to add. This road through here was called Lincolnton Road before Mooresville was founded. Because it went from Salisbury to Lincoln.
Going from Salisbury to Lincolnton?
Do what?
Going Salisbury to
Ran
Lincoln?
from Salisbury to Lincoln. Highway 150 goes from Salisbury to Lincoln.
In fact, there's a street in Salisbury called
Yeah, but if you
Lincoln.
come by Boyden High School in Salisbury, that's
Lincoln.
that was the original route. It's this way, and it's called Lincolnton Road. And a lot of, when I was growing up, a lot of old people called it Lincolnton Road, but still calling this road Lincolnton Road.
Really?
Sam told me that the original road went right in front of the old post office down
Yeah,
there.
it does.
Yeah.
And on down to
Yeah.
the Lazy Vine.
After it crossed the creek, it angled off to the left, up the Minion Road, then back into the original road at the top of the hill.
Yeah,
And
wait,
where,
McNeely House down there too,
yeah,
which is back, way back off the road.
yeah. In Sloan Park, you familiar with Sloan Park? The road by Sloan Park just makes a horseshoe off of this road out here. And I understand that was the original road that goes around the Sloan Park, because that's where Carr Mill is there.
Now, is that from your cars? Linda? It's not your cars?
I think they call it Kerr Mill.
Kerr?
I grew up around the cars, I call it car mill.
I looked in that book down there and I didn't recognize any names. Everything's not.
My name is Miller Wyndon, everybody called me Wyndon.
Try trooper too?
One time, yeah.
You jumped out of a perfectly good everybody.
He made his coat. He made everything, the thread, everything he made himself.
I want to tell you why Grandpa Overcash started out with the Hart family there. He was first cousin to some of the Harts. My mother used to call Harry and Don's dad a cousin, so they called each other cousins. So he came there because he was related to the Harts. And he had a partner named, I think it was Allison Collier. And it's called Overcash Collier Store to start with. And when he moved up here, it was just the Overcash Store.
Do you know if Overcashes used to live in the house down there?
No, the Harts lived
Just
there.
the Harts, and then because those people had the building for the store.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
Yeah. That was the Hart family, his cousins, the Harts. He probably lived in the house there with him because he was a single son. But he's well educated. He was an only son, and his dad died on the farm. In the hot summer, he had a heat stroke, and my granddaddy was a baby. So they came back. His mother was a Collier. They came back and lived next to where Joe Collier lives, down on Collier Grange Road. And he was raised up in a log cabin there. But they took really good care of him and sent him off to an academy for some extra education. As you can see in this book, he kept really good records, and his handwriting was just perfect.
So I have two questions for you. First, what are some of your memories of this building with your grandfather? And I know he used to have his office back there in
They
the
had an
corner.
office in that corner, and there was a little rack coming down from the top that held horse collars and leather lines for mules and horses, and he sold them over the bridles and things like that. He kept them on that little rack up there. And I think when my granddaddy died and Uncle Marvin started this store somewhere in the early 30s, he had a Philco radio. And a lot of people around here didn't have radio. So in the evenings, a lot of the neighbors would come in to help to listen to the radios, especially when they had some of the spikes, sugarless spikes. And you could hear that fight going on in the store when you go to people listening to the radio. It was like when the television first came out. They'd have the television and rock people around busy. Hey there. Have seen.
You had mentioned about your grandfather would hand out sardines or crackers or something?
Well, he would sell those.
Oh, okay.
He had a barrel full of crackers, and he had another small barrel full of sardines. And people would come in and buy the crackers, whatever they needed, and sardines. And I said, see, neither I never did want to eat those.
I get a load of that about from the parent store down there when the sawmill and cotton gin were all going strong. 8 or 10 people working over there. They came over to the store every day for lunch and get crackers and slice off some hoop cheese and eat sardines or pork and beans. And they had a horseshoe pit out beside the store, and while they were still on their lunch break, they'd go out and pitch horseshoes.
Can you think of any reason why there's so much glass around here? I mean, there's glass all around here and there's glass all around the house next door. It's like they just kind of threw all their glass and stuff outside. when they were done with it. I mean, we're just finding it everywhere. It's all different colored glass and bottles and every time it rains, more glass comes up.
That's the way it was down there where I live. I picked up glass ever since I've been there, and it's still washing
And they
down.
had it down in the woods behind where our garden is.
It's the same way around the place I got, except there's a garage and a blacksmith shop there, so you find little pieces of rusty metal.
Really?
I remember that blacksmith shop, Mr. Basinger ran.
Yeah, Mr. Charlie Mason.
Yeah.
There was some old gentleman come by the house, it's been probably 10 years ago now, and wanted to know if he could go down in the woods and look at that old dump. And I said, I didn't know there's a dump down there. And he said, yeah, when he was a kid, said everybody in the country hauled their garbage down there and put it in the woods. He said that dump was half a mile long there. And he wanted to go down there sometime and dig for balls.
Still there?
He never did come back. After he left, I went down there nosing around. There are some old pieces of metal and some stuff still left on top of the ground, but you can't dig in there because of tree roots and stuff buried all over everything. But according to him, the old dump's still there.
You got a bunch of old bottles from down in there, didn't you?
Yeah, we found a few little old bottles.
Indians.
Many